Hello everybody, I'm Evelyn Henry of TaxPlus, and I want to talk to you today about tax preparation fraud. And in doing so, I want to read some information that I found on the IRS website. And it starts, return preparer fraud generally involves the preparation and filing of false income tax returns by preparers who claim inflated personal and business expenses, false deductions, unallowable credits, or excessive exemptions on returns prepared for their clients. Preparers may manipulate income figures to fraudulently obtain tax credits such as the earned income tax credit. In some situations, the client or taxpayer may not have knowledge of the false expenses, deductions, exemptions, and/or credits shown on his or her tax return. While most preparers provide excellent service to their clients, the IRS urges taxpayers to be very careful when choosing a tax preparer. Taxpayers should be careful as they would when choosing a doctor or a lawyer. It is important to know that even if someone else prepares a tax return, it is the taxpayer who is ultimately responsible for all the information on the tax return. Now, reputable preparers will ask and encourage you to have receipts and will ask you multiple questions to determine your qualifications for expenses, deductions, and other items. And by doing so, they're trying to help you to prepare the best tax return possible and to avoid penalty, interest, or additional taxes that could result from an IRS examination. Now, I thought that this was important because there's a lot of information out there on the internet through videos and even CDs for sale that encourage people to take all kinds of deductions and claim expenses that may be inflated or a little bit outrageous, because I've heard them myself. And as the IRS has stated themselves on their website, doesn't matter who's preparing the return, the taxpayer themselves, they are ultimately responsible for all the information on the tax return. And I know you may ask yourself, if it is so wrong, why are these people openly providing these statements and providing this information? Well, it's one thing to say this information, to make these statements, but it's another thing to actually put it on paper, file it, sign your name to it, and file it away, because they understand that you, the taxpayer, are the one that's going to be responsible for that information that's filed. Also, that information may tend to be kind of general. It may give you some specifics about deductions and credits and expenses that you may deduct, but they also leave out some important information about some documentation that you may need and what the IRS requires that you have to back up that information. The IRS also states on their website some hints when choosing a return preparer. It says, be cautious of tax preparers who claim that they can obtain larger refunds than other preparers. Now, if the preparer is knowledgeable, yes, they can get you a refund that you are entitled to, but they cannot get you a better refund than any other knowledgeable tax preparer. Now, you should be looking for tax preparers that have knowledge and experience. That is true. But a tax preparer cannot tell you right off the bat that I'm going to get you a higher refund than anybody else until they see your tax situation, till they see what your tax return looks like. So be aware and beware of those tax preparers that right off the bat can promise you a larger refund, because they may not be having your best interests at heart. They're looking they're looking into their best interests. And it says to avoid preparers who base their fee on a percentage of the amount of the refund, because they may tend, not all of them, but they may tend to inflate the figures on your tax return to inflate your refund, and that way inflating their fee. So be careful with that also. They should have a stated fee no matter what your refund is, or even if you have a balance due. And of course, you should use a reputable tax professional who signs the tax return and provides you with a copy for your records. Now, I've had many clients who have come to me, not during tax season, after the tax season, who need help because someone else prepared the tax return, and then when they, if they are being reviewed and the IRS wants additional information, the other tax preparer are nowhere to be found. And some of these people don't even have copies of their tax returns. So I've seen a lot of people, and I help people like that. I help them try to reproduce their tax return, get information from the IRS, and try to help them with their tax returns. But the person who originally prepared the return is nowhere to be found. So make sure that you have copies and that you know what is being put on your tax return. Because even though a lot of preparers don't go step line by line, it is important for you to ask questions, and especially when it comes to business expenses and deductions, you want to know. I tell my clients, I show them, these are all the expenses. I show them the bottom line, I show them the expenses, so that when they're signing that tax return, they know exactly what they're signing. The IRS also says, consider whether the individual or firm will be around to answer questions about the preparation of the tax return months or even years from when the tax return was filed. And that's important, to make sure that that person is going to be around to answer the questions, because they are the ones that are preparing the return. And of course, review your return before you sign it and ask questions on anything that you don't understand. I always encourage people to ask questions. I explain it to them and I ask them questions, because no matter who prepares your return, you, the taxpayer, are ultimately responsible for all of the information on your tax return. And of course, never sign a blank tax return. And the IRS also states to find out the person's credentials, by asking other people that may have used that preparer. Also, there are people that you can talk to find out about that specific preparer, to see if they were satisfied with that information. So this is very important, and it's on the IRS website. I thought it was important to talk about, because I hear a lot of people making a lot of statements about deductions and credits that you can take. And like I said before, it's easy for them to say that, but you're the one that's going to have to back it up. So you have to be careful, you have to be knowledgeable, and be smart, because it's not worth it when the IRS comes to you later on and you have to pay additional tax, interest, and penalties. So be aware and beware. Okay, so that's just some more information from TaxPlus. Again, my name is Evelyn Henry. I encourage you to take a look at our website at TaxPlus1040.com, where we have a small business section with information about expenses and deductions that you can take. And I will be updating that information as I get more information from the IRS. It was very nice giving you this information. And until next week, it's Evelyn Henry of TaxPlus.